my point was. Not that, why do we go to war? Why don't we spend money on the things that we really need to spend money on? Why do we spend all this money on war and not spend...
We do.
We don't spend nearly enough, dude. There's massive school cuts right now.
That raises the question.
Massive school cuts right now. There's fucking no community centers in these bad neighborhoods. There's no guides. There's no counseling. If you wanted to look at the one huge problem that we have, it's babies and children growing up and becoming shitty human beings because there's no love, because there's not getting any help. And we're not putting money in that at all. The disproportionate amount of money we put in the military budget and compared to how we treat children in this country and raise kids and work on terrible communities and work on educating and getting people out of bad situations. And you say, oh, well, you know, they got to figure it out on their own. You don't have a fucking clue what kind of a disproportionate life you would be living if you were born in the ghetto. If you've ever been around the projects, if you've ever been around terrible neighborhoods. I never lived in a really bad neighborhood, but I lived in Jamaica Plain in Boston, and it wasn't good by any stretch of the imagination. And there was a lot of really poor people around me, but we would go into really bad neighborhoods. We would go to buy pot. We would go to do different shit. We would go just because it was dangerous. You know, we were young kids. We were close to bad neighborhoods. There's people living in ways that you can't even wrap your fucking head around. And there's not much ways out of there. You're there and you go
Baltimore is a classic example.
How about fucking Detroit, where 50% of the people can't read?
It's unbelievable.
That's a real statistic that just came out. It was actually 47%. 47%. You can't say that that's an even playing field. And you can't say that for the human race, that doesn't need to be addressed and helped.
Absolutely.
And it's not about getting welfare mothers money so they can keep shitting out kids. It's about helping the fucking kids. The welfare mother might already be fucked. Her programming might already be jacked. She might already be on some downward, you know, addiction spiral. Who knows? But you can help that kid.
But, you know, one of the things that's always raised with social scientists is they say there are a lot of cases in this country where you threw a lot of money at a problem. Let's take Head Start as an example. Or just a lot of the money that Bush spent on education, which was a lot of money over the past 8 years. Why in the world didn't a lot of test scores in certain segments of society, they didn't budge, and sometimes they went down?
Even you spend all that money, those teachers aren't making shit.
Right. You're spending the money the wrong way. The money is being spent too much in this area than not that area, and that's the challenge of a government. That's the challenge of a bureaucracy. You tax, you have a lot of money, trying to find out how to spend that money and where to spend that money has always been a big challenge for
the proportion
any
of that money is the problem. The proportion is tiny compared to the problem. It's tiny. The salaries that teachers get is unlivable, and that is a really important part of being a human being. If you look back on your teachers that you had and how much they influenced you and how much power they have over you, this is the person who stands in front of the class and tells you how the fucking world works. And when you're a kid, that's a huge responsibility that many times is bestowed on idiots. It's bestowed on idiots, and they took this job because they couldn't get another job, and they're fucking bitter and cunty.
By the way, try with the teachers' unions, and then just try firing a teacher who has tenure because they've been teaching for 3 years in a lot of districts. Just try now.
In high schools, they get tenure like that?
It's so hard to fire a teacher. Yes, it is so. Well, there's a documentary for everybody to watch called "Waiting for Superman," but forget that. There's an article just now in the New York Times about trying to get, I think it was in the state of Ohio, just trying to get one law passed, one law that makes it, you know, harder for a teacher to get tenure or easier to hire a high-quality teacher in place of someone who's not performing. You are dealing with fucking 65 different interests with a lot of lobbying power, starting with the teachers union that also then has a subsidiary called the Chicago Teachers Union that has a subsidiary called the County Teachers Union. And you're dealing with fucking the reality of trying to make a law go through. Holy shit, man. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Talk to a senator sometime. Say, hey, I want to get a law passed, and it's a simple one. Talk to him and see how long it takes, and how many years, and how many people you got to pay off, and how many people you got to convince that
how many lobbyists you have to have on your side.
Yeah, because a lot of people go, the problem with the law is two things. You pass a law, it does one thing. It puts a whole bunch of people out of business and a whole bunch of other people in business. And any law you pass doesn't go away in this country. And you know why? Because a whole cottage industry grows up around that law. That's why.
Oh, yeah. We've talked about that many times. Especially when it comes to drugs. I mean, there's a reason why people are still trying to keep marijuana illegal. Look, folks, we have more than 50% of the people in prison today in this country are in prison for nonviolent drug offenses. And there are a tremendous amount of private prisons in this country.
And we're all paying
it's
for
a
it.
business. Yeah. And we have to wrap our heads around the fact that there's some sort of a creepy situation that's happened where there's a lot of money in keeping people in jail. And because of that, there are, make no doubt about it, the prison guard unions and all these, various law enforcement unions, they are not lobbying to keep marijuana, to make marijuana legal. They don't want it at all because it's a part of their economy. Yeah. It's a part of their whole situation.
This is what happens in life, is that a lot of people have a vested interest. That's why being a politician or a president, the old saying, when you're a president, you make one decision, you make 50% of the people happy, and another 50% of the people out there hate your guts. There's no way to avoid that when you have power.
Tenure for a teacher is almost, it has some of the elements of intellectual welfare.
Absolutely. That's a great way to put it. That's a fucking great way to put it.
You know what I mean? In that,
wow.
It sounds like a good idea. Like, what you're going to do is you're going to make it so you can't get fired, so you are allowed to be free with your ideas, and you don't have to worry about the repercussions of your free thinking. And this is going to promote thought. But the problem with that is, when you know that you can't get fired, you become a cunt. And that's just what people do. It's natural. It's just like welfare.
I was doing stand-up in, I think it was Kansas City. I talked to a principal who came to my show. I said, give me your take on the education system. And he said, the education system's fine. I said, what do you mean? He goes, education, my school is amazing. But you know what the problem is? Parents. A lot of parents suck. They suck. And a lot of it is this culture that doesn't put a premium on education in a lot of places. The idea that you got to work your fucking ass off against insurmountable odds for anything, all that stuff. I mean,
Well, kids in where we live, there's an even trickier element. There's this fucking weird escape clause where you can become famous for nothing and then you get millions. And so instead of working your ass off for almost nothing after taxes, you look at Kim Kardashian, who just fucks somebody and makes a video of it and then gets a TV show where they follow her around. She does nothing to contribute. She's not saying anything, but yet she's making millions of dollars. And good for her. I'm not hating on her. Good for her. But to kids, that all of a sudden becomes this goal, this weird like clause in the contract. It's this weird little escape clause. Yeah. And a few people find it and they get through the system, and all of a sudden, look at this person making millions of dollars.